And now, Westwood One presents this week's Startrax Profile, Steve Perry, brought to you by Kerry Lotion. Kerry is so very different, rich, and recommended. And by Crest. Fighting cavities is the whole idea behind Crest. I'm Phil Hendry, and for the next hour, we'll hear the words and music of a singer from Central California who built upon a successful career as lead singer for Journey, and now has topped the charts as a solo artist. Startrax Profile's Steve Perry after this. Born in a small farming community in Central California, Steve Perry always wanted to be a rock and roll singer. He began with local club bands in his teens and later did vocals on radio commercials. Then, after a record deal with his own group fell through, he joined an improvisational band from San Francisco called Journey. The band was originally put together by several former members of Santana in 1972. The music they played was a mixture of rock and jazz, with very little singing and lots of improvisation. While they liked it, the public was less than enthusiastic, and their first few albums were flops. Finally, as Journey's lead guitarist Neal remembers, it was time for a change.
Everybody kept on saying, well, we'll just stick it out and see what happens. Maybe we'll get lucky, you know. And then after a while, everybody got tired of starving, you know. I said, let's get a good singer and write some good songs and get ourselves on the radio. So things will become more comfortable for everyone.
That's when they found Steve Perry, who was without a gig, sitting in Los Angeles, a very frustrated young man.
You know, I was trying to get aid and everything else because I was starving.
He was sitting in here in L.A. in his bathrobe, kicking his little TV in his living room.
It's true.
I'll never forget that, man. He was so pissed off, you know. He's like, God damn it. He's walking around his room. He's bitching and da-da-da-da. He's kicking his TV with his foot. It was so funny, I swear. I remember to this day that day.
I was totally angry at life.
From the moment Steve Perry joined Journey, the band seemed to take off. Looking back, Steve says there were a variety of reasons for that. The music was more accessible, the lyrics communicated, and just as important, the band toured extensively. They really wanted to make it, and sometimes that led to exhausting journeys.
After doing, I think it was an 18-day-in-a-row stretch, I mean, there was no break, okay? And as a singer, you know, I mean, there's a lot of singers that can't do 2 nights in a row or a week in a row, you know? I was doing 18, you know, sometimes 19 in a row, and I was starting to feel it about the last 15, 16, 17, 18, you know. But then all of a sudden our manager walked up and said, now listen, this is going to be very instrumental for us in Europe, and the group really needs to break Europe, and I think that, you know, we need to expose ourselves, that's all we need to do. And once people hear us over there, then they'll know we exist, because it's a truly, truly another world over there. There's a whole different music scene happening. People don't even know about some major groups that are huge here. So at that point in time, we were trying to break America, and he thought it'd be opportune to break Europe. And so what did he do? He says, okay. He says, I know this is crazy, but you guys got a day off on Monday. We're going, thanks. But I want you to catch the red eye after the show on Sunday to Chicago. And I want you to fly from Chicago to New York to London, London to Amsterdam. Now, mind you, that's about a 8-hour time change there. You're already on Mars at this point. Then you're already wide awake because they're ready for you to play. And that was the Pink Pop Festival in Amsterdam. Okay, so we played that. After the festival was over, I mean, we had one evening to spend there. But really, it was no evening because we caught the late evening out back to London, London back to New York, and flew New York to, I think it was Denver to Tucson, from which the next day we had a show. And I'm telling you, I felt like a raw piece of ground round, you know.
Perry singing lead vocals with Journey, and one of the big songs he sang out on the road in 1981. We'll hear more from Steve in a moment when we continue with this week's Startrax Profile. I'm Phil Hendry.
Can any...
1981 brought Journey the success the group had sought for years. Their album Escape gave them 3 hit singles, spotlighting both the singing and writing talents of Steve Perry. Yes. With all the success Steve Perry had with Journey and the Escape album, he had to face a whole new set of problems. After years of struggling to make it, he was nearing the top. And because of his tremendous visibility as lead singer of one of the world's top rock groups, he had to come face to face with the burden of being recognized everywhere he went.
The fan situation, it is really a double-edged sword, you know. It's a byproduct of what you've worked so long for, but you never know what you were gonna get once you got there, and so many things are like that. So sometimes it's great, and there's sometimes it really is trying. So you have to sometimes hide out, and that's not too pleasant. So like I say, it's a double-edged sword. It can be a strain, you know, sometimes.
Song and the entire Escape album brought Steve Perry and Journey to the verge of superstardom. A lot of people can't handle that. They get paralyzed by success, fear failure, and suffer from what the industry calls platinum paranoia. But Steve and Journey lead guitarist Neal say for them, that's out.
You know what? I don't care. I don't care.
Either way.
I don't care. You know, I really don't. I mean, it's hard for me to put that across to somebody, but I don't really care about that because it's such a negative thing. I don't want to deal with that pressure. That pressure goes nowhere. It does me no good. It's fruitless. So I just say, you know, I'm going to do the best I can, and if it doesn't work out, then what else can you do? And otherwise you go crazy. You just can't do nothing else but that.
Yeah, the only thing you can try to do is live up to your own expectations of yourself and continue to grow and have new horizons.
Yeah, I think you'll never be able to do anything to surpass yourself or grow if you stifle yourself with platinum paranoia. I mean, it's just, it doesn't work.
From thinking about all the platinum paranoia and that stuff, like you said, that means nothing, I'd rather think about the more positive side of it, is that I do need new goals, and I am going somewhere, and I know that that is forward.
Steve Perry and Journey from their 1983 album Frontiers. For Steve, the band's a lot more than just a job. It's like a family. More on that and Steve's move to stay with the band while pursuing a solo career when we continue with this week's Startrax Profile, Steve Perry. I'm Phil Hendry. From their 1983 album Frontiers, the music of Steve Perry and Journey.